A talented college girl from Brooklyn, New York, named Elisa Shaw, also enjoyed exploring new places. In order to escape the bitter winter of New York, her family decided to go to Thailand for Christmas break. Little did they realize, however, that their holiday would quickly turn into a nightmare as they traveled to Thailand. The pilot issued an emergency alert, waking Elisa and her family. The aircraft was going to go down. The passengers sprinted for their life as panic broke out. Nearly all of the passengers were killed when the jet crashed into the waters of the Gulf of Thailand. Elisa's family was split up in the commotion. She clung to floating aircraft wreckage and fought to stay alive while wearing their life vest. Although the sound of the breaking waves was horrifying, it was nothing compared to what was about to happen. Elisa succeeded in climbing up one of the rafts that were protruding from the aircraft. She could make out the bodies of other passengers floating on the water's surface. They were not protected by the life vest from the force of the collision. She could see mutilated bodies drifting by her lifelessly. Some of the victims of the crash were burned, while others just had limbs and other body parts missing. It looked like a scene from a horror film. Elisa saw numerous fins drifting amid the water's stillness. She was aware of what they were, and she watched in horror as the floating corpses were snatched up by these predators one by one. Bull sharks, which are frequent in the Gulf of Thailand, came out of the depths to attack. These monsters were enormous, ferocious, and ravenous. Elisa was alone herself at sea, surrounded by sharks that were feeding on floating corpses. Elisa feared the shark was pursuing her as it swam dangerously near to her. A 14-foot bull shark, however, jumped out of the water like a torpedo and snapped at a floating, decomposed corpse next to Lisa's floating raft with a powerful snap. The assault was grotesque and had a bone-chilling crunch. Before plunging back into the sea and dragging its meal further into the ocean, the shark grabbed hold of the dead victim and swallowed it whole from head to torso. Before ages 5 to 10, Elisa had never seen a shark feeding frenzy. Sharks were continually prowling the region and chowing down on any floating dead bodies. Elisa was overcome with emotion as she pondered her family. She was aware that the rest of her family had either already died or had been devoured by these maniacal monsters. Elisa felt as like she was being roasted alive by the intense heat as the sun beat down on her. She was hungry, thirsty, and in desperate need of some shade. She decided to leap into the water to relieve her discomfort since she could stand it no longer. She was immersed in the water, holding onto the edge of the life raft. Although it wasn't the coldest of seas, it was still preferable than the sweltering heat on the raft. Elisa felt the cooling effect of the saline seas as the scorching sun beat down on her bare flesh, wash across her submerged body like an embrace. A black fin appeared out of nowhere and stealthily glided towards her like a threatening phantom from the depths. Elisa felt her heart thumping in her chest. Her fearful mind is already aware of the danger lurking underneath. She attempted to get herself into the raft, but she was unable to move due to her paralyzing dread. Although Elisa lost sight of the fin, she was aware that danger still lay just below her. And then, suddenly, she experienced excruciating agony as a gigantic shark's teeth clamped down on her leg, crushing both bone and flesh. As the agonizing pain traveled throughout her body, she yelled out in anguish. The predator's razor-sharp fangs and strong jaws allowed it to grasp onto Elisa's calf. Elisa was being pulled underwater by the shark, who was yanking on her leg. As Elisa attempted to cry for aid, she could feel the water filling her lungs. She struggled to break free of the shark's hold, but it was impossible. Elisa was snatched by the beast abruptly and violently from the security of the raft, which sent her body flying through the water like a rag doll in a storm. Elisa felt herself spinning out of control and utterly at the mercy of the charging shark due to the sheer ferocity of the assault. Elisa's eyesight started to deteriorate as she was being dragged further into the sea, and she realized she was going to die. In case they had lived, she would have had a family and a life. She fought to remain awake, but the anguish was too much. She eventually passed out, and her corpse fell into the ocean's depths. Despite the constant rescue efforts, the tragedy that befell the doomed airliner made international headlines and left everyone in shock and despair. The fatal collision left no passenger alive, and the wreckage is now a cemetery of torn metal and debris strewn over the huge ocean. Elisa Shaw's tale went unwritten, serving as a chilling reminder of the horror she experienced. Only the ruthless ocean and the unrelenting animals that prowled its shores knew the anguish she faced in the last moments of her life. She was fighting for her life in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by ravenous sharks and the dead corpses of her fellow passengers. No one could ever fathom the horror and despair that overtook her. The relentlessly pounding waves drowned out her cries for aid, sealing her destiny as the raging shark pulled her away from the protection of the raft and into the depths of the ocean, where her tale would always remain a mystery. Anna had been longing for a break to a tropical paradise that would take the tension out of her life for months. She realized her fantasies had finally come true as soon as she set foot on Indonesia's beaches with their pristine white sand. The big, stately palm trees swung back and forth in a soothing rhythm. Their leaves are writhing, creating a gentle melody. She felt alive because of the heavy aroma of fresh coconut and salt that was carried by the soft wind that came in from the beach. She could see the vivid coral hues and the many fish that darted back and forth under the surface thanks to the water's exceptional clarity. Her skin was battered by the sun, a fiery ball in the sky, warming her from the inside out. But despite all the beauty, she sensed that there was danger lying underneath the surface, which sent shivers down her spine. She was aware that the water was home to hidden mysteries that were just waiting to be discovered. She also had a sensation of dread as she descended farther into the abyss. Anna wasted no time in heading to the beach on the first day of her ideal tropical getaway. As she walked toward the water's edge, the hot sand scorched her feet, but she didn't notice. She was too ecstatic to experience anything other than joy. She couldn't help but dip her toes into the invitingly clean water. The experience was energizing, and she gradually but certainly felt a feeling of relaxation flood over her. She then ventured farther into the water, each step more alluring than the previous. She waited in stillness while the turquoise waves softly rocked her back and again. The water hit her skin like a blast and felt cold and reviving. Anna wanted to take advantage of all the water had to offer on a hot day because she felt alive. She had a rush of exhilaration as she gazed out at the big ocean. As she swam further out, the water became colder, but that just made her more anxious to explore. In comparison to the vast water, she felt little, yet the excitement of the journey kept her going. She had no idea the danger was waiting to attack under the waves. The peace of the wide sea was about to be broken when Anna experienced agonizing leg agony. She glanced down in shock and saw a massive tiger shark slicing into her leg with its razor-sharp jaws. Her fear suddenly overcame her as the predator's strong teeth continued to bite down, holding on tight. As the shark began to whirl about and take Anna further and deeper into the water, Anna's body jerked. The salty ocean muffled her cries. Her skin and bones were torn apart by the overpowering, crushing feeling of the shark's hold. As the enormous tiger shark dragged Anna further and deeper into the depths, her spine, chilling cries reverberated across the crystal clear blue seas. On the sand, their bodies were immobilized. As they searched the enormous expanse of the ocean for any sign of assistance, their hearts were thumping with terror and despair. They had little expectation of receiving a prompt rescue since the closest lifeguard station was kilometers away. They realized they had to move quickly to save Anna's life since they were running out of time. With a surfboard acting as a barrier from the large animal, Anna's companion fearlessly dove into the sea. The tiger shark, though, was persistent. The prey was fixated in its big eyes. Anna screamed in pain as its jaws latched into her skin and were lined with razor-sharp fangs. The more Anna fought, the more forcefully the shark dragged her down into the dark, murky depths of the water. She felt as if she was losing the fight against the fierce beast, since her energy was depleting quickly. She felt terrified at the prospect of never seeing her loved ones again, and worried that her life was passing her by. Anna saw a speck on the horizon as her eyesight started to get foggy and her hoop started to disappear. It became apparent as the item got closer that it was a tiny boat being operated by many rugged-looking guys. As the boat drew near, the waves made it bounce and shake, and Anna's pulse raced with a combination of terror and hope. She could tell the guys on the boat were Brazilians as they got closer. Their aged features were scarred from years spent on the open sea. The fishermen sprung into action with a feeling of urgency. With excitement racing through their veins, they prepared to face the deadly predator by moving their hands fast and deliberately. The enormous tiger shark was the target of the fishermen's valiant battle. The animal's jaw seemed to be unbreakable. Its hold is firm. The fight appeared to go on forever as friends watched in despair from the beach while pleading for a miracle. The fishermen were ultimately successful in forcing the shark's jaws apart with one last desperate effort, releasing Anna from his hold while she was gasping for air and in great agony. Anna was dragged to the beach and hastily hauled into the boat. Her pals surrounded her nervously as she was taken to the nearby hospital. Every second of the trip seemed like it was taking a lifetime. When they finally arrived, Anna was taken immediately for emergency care. The vicious shark attack was over. Every time Anna closed her eyes, her body and mind were still jarred by the horror. She could still feel the razor-sharp teeth of the shark tearing into her skin and lowering her down the bottomless abyss. She really regretted having ever misjudged the perils of the water, and the once stunning tropical paradise had now become a nightmare for her. Damon has always had a unique affection for the water. When he was younger, he anxiously anticipated summer so he could spend as much time as possible at the beach, swimming in the waves and discovering what was underneath. As he grew older, his love of the water only became deeper, and he yearned for a means to transform his hobby into a profession. So when he learned about the possibility to work as a shark tank cleaner at a cutting-edge shark research center in Florida, he jumped at the chance because it was a chance for Damon to work closely with some of the most dreadful predators in the ocean, fulfilling a lifelong goal. The tanks were even larger than the structure, which was enormous. The biggest of them all was home to a great white shark, an extremely dangerous predator that could quickly suffocate an individual. As Damon drew near the tank, the water within was swirling and foaming with power, and he couldn't help but feel uneasy. As he worked, Damon was enthralled by the shark's graceful motions and strong bodies and couldn't take his eyes off of them. One day, while he was finishing up cleaning the tank's walls, a shiver raced down his spine. Uncertainty existed. Particularly unpredictable and flailing around in the water was the Greek white, its erratic and frenetic motions. As the shark circled, Damon's heart was thumping in his chest. Its lifeless black eyes seemed to burrow into his soul as they grew closer to him. A feeling of fear developed in the pit of his stomach as he felt the predator's weighty gaze on him. Damon was aware that something was wrong and that he was in danger. As the big white's agitation became worse, panic set in for the demon. Damon made a careful approach to the latter because he could feel the predator becoming more hostile and realized that he needed to leave the tank quickly. His heart was thumping in his chest. Every action is purposeful and calculated. However, the shark erupted into a frenzy just as he was preparing to flee. Its enormous gaping mouth is like a hellish gateway. Fear gripped Damon as the beast charged in his direction. In the faint light, teeth are grinning. As the shark drew near, he could feel the surge of water. Hunger, which chilled his spine. Damon attempted to escape out of desperation, but the great white was like a torpedo in the sea, approaching him quickly from a distance. The shark's enormous jaws quickly clamped down on Damon's leg, causing him to feel excruciating agony throughout his body. He could feel the razor-sharp fangs cutting through muscle and sinew with ease, penetrating his skin. As the shark pulled him to the tank's bottom, the pressure was intense. He was overwhelmed by its enormous bulk. Damon struggled to maintain consciousness as his eyesight became blurry, and the water became murky with blood. He was aware that the relentless predator was stronger than him, and he could feel his power ebbing away, yet something in him deep down refused to give up. He returned to the surface with a claw. His body writhed in anguish, but his will to live overcame everything. Damon realized then that if he wanted to survive the tank, he would have to fight with all he had. As Damon tried to escape the terrifying circumstance, panic overwhelmed his head. His pulse was racing when suddenly he realized there was an emergency button on the side of the tank. He slammed his thumb down on the alarm button, desperately hoping that someone would hear it, and rushed to his help. The big white, however, wouldn't let go of its prey, and while he waited for the sound of approaching footfall, a sickening sensation crept into the pit of his stomach. Its jaws ripped shut with lethal power. The sound of Damon's flesh and bone demon howls was drowned out by the waves. He saw that his strength was waning. As the shark continued to pull him down, he could feel his eyesight fading and realized that he was in serious danger. As the seconds passed, Damon felt more and more hopeless. Damon heard a sudden splash and the sound of frantic voices above him as he battled to remain awake. When he turned to look, he saw a group of rescuers with dark tranquilizer rifles. They had stern, resolute expressions. Damon's leg was encased in the great white's teeth. Its enormous bulk is violently flailing back and forth. Damon's universe was limited to the agony in his leg and the snapping of the jaws as he felt like he was drowning in the frenzy of the assault. They seemed to be holding on for dear life. With deadly precision, the researchers launched their tranquilizer darts. The shark kept circling as it snapped. With Damon's life on the line, it was a race against time. Each shot was a risk in an effort to stop the ferocious predator before it could claim more victims. The stakes increased and the intensity of the concentration increased with each passing second. One of the darts finally made contact with the shark's flesh, penetrating it deeply. When a great white suddenly fell limp, Damon was in shock. Its enormous bulk sank to the tank's bottom. Damon felt himself being hauled to safety by the rescue crew as the jaws that had been poised to take his life lost their hold. Damon was conscious of his close call as he was taken to the hospital. Although the tranquilizer shot had spared his life, the sharks would never leave his mind. He would live with the attack forever. He couldn't get rid of the impression that Damon was in the ocean, a dark, scary region full of unknown dangers and perils. The ocean would no longer have the same allure.